Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. Today we relive A Court of Wings and Ruin, the third installment in this breathtaking saga where war looms over Prythian and love becomes both weapon and salvation. Remember, this is just a summary, not the full book. If you enjoy epic stories filled with courage, strategy, and heartache, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next illustrated summary. And let us know where you're watching from. Your comments help YouTube recommend the channel. Let's begin. Prologue. Rhysand walks among the corpses of humans and immortals after a brutal battle. The stench of death and the buzzing of flies fill the air, while the broken wings of the Illyrians lie among the shattered bodies. The loyal forces were repelled after 3 days of fighting, where Rhys exhausted his power and relied on his Illyrian training to endure. The tower they defended was key to the war, and its fall would have been devastating. Although reinforcements arrived at dawn on the third day, sent by his father after his pleas, Rhys has not found Cashin or Azriel among the living. Exhausted and wounded, he searches the field for his brothers among the fallen warriors. Uncertainty and fear consume him as he continues his search in the vast realm of death and desolation left by the battle. Chapter 1. Feyre pretends to adapt to the spring court while plotting her revenge. She paints a picture of the garden, hiding her rage under a serene appearance. Her mind replays the horrors her sisters endured and the blood spilled by Cashin. Although she craves vengeance, she controls herself to avoid ruining her plan. Tamlin and Lucian interrupt her in her studio to remind her of an important meeting. Feyre perfectly plays the role of a broken, insecure, and submissive woman, deceiving Tamlin with well-rehearsed smiles. Her mind remains vigilant, protecting information and plotting the downfall of those who betrayed her family. Lucian, though suspicious, does not question her behavior. Feyre feels the weight of her role but knows that patience is key to destroying Tamlin from within. Her hatred toward Ianthe grows, and each day she continues to pretend to be the submissive consort that everyone believes returned from the Night Court. Chapter 2. Feyre learns that Jurian will arrive with 2 Hybern commanders, Dagdan and Brannock, to assess the wall and plan its destruction. Tamlin keeps his promise to include her in the meetings, unaware of her true objective, to gather information and send it to Rhysand. Feyre limits her communication through the mating bond to avoid detection. Although she longs to know more about Cashin, Azriel, and her sisters, she restrains herself. When Jurian arrives, his madness is evident, and the Hybern twins, cruel and emotionless, cause unease. Feyre maintains a calm facade but senses their attempt to invade the minds of Tamlin and Lucian. With her Damati power, she blocks their attacks without anyone noticing. The meeting ends with Jurian showing disdain toward Feyre, but she continues to control her anger and reaffirms her purpose of sinking the spring court from within, taking advantage of every mistake her enemies make. Chapter 3. Feyre accompanies Lucian and the Hybern twins to inspect the holes in the wall. Jurian follows closely, watching intently. Animals flee at the presence of the cruel commanders. While Lucian points out the breaches, Feyre remains alert, evaluating the wall's weaknesses and calculating how much time they have before Hybern destroys it. Dagdan and Brannock examine the area with military precision, searching for vulnerable points. During a break, Feyre manipulates the situation to get closer to Lucian, feigning fear of the twins. Brannock watches suspiciously as the two grow closer. Feyre seizes every moment to plant doubt in Lucian's mind, suggesting that Hybern might not be what he believes. Upon returning, she faces Ianthe, who plans a celebration for Hybern's guests. Feyre hides her disdain and continues to weave her vengeance, maintaining her facade intact. Chapter 4. During the summer solstice, Ianthe leads the ceremony to bless the longest day of the year. Feyre, dressed in white, becomes the center of attention when she manipulates the altar's position to receive the sun's blessing, displacing Ianthe. The crowd cheers for Feyre, calling her Cursebreaker, and seeing her as blessed by the cauldron. Ianthe is humiliated, losing her prominence, while Feyre enjoys her small victory. Tamlin watches in awe and doubt, unable to comprehend the miracle. Feyre continues to feign humility, but her mind is plotting more moves to undermine Ianthe's authority. Lucien, aware of Feyre's game, supports her, while Ianthe tries to justify what happened. During the banquet, Feyre becomes the center of admiration, feeding her image as a savior. With each step, Feyre weakens Tamlin's trust in his allies, setting the stage for his downfall. Chapter 5. Feyre provokes jealousy and mistrust in Tamlin by feigning a nightmare and seeking comfort from Lucien during the night. When Tamlin discovers them, the carefully staged scene suggests intimacy between them, fueling Tamlin's insecurity and mistrust toward Lucien. Tamlin suppresses his anger, but Feyre senses his latent fury. Lucien, though surprised, begins to suspect her intentions. Feyre manipulates the situation to make Tamlin believe that his control is slipping. Tamlin becomes obsessed with the idea that Lucien might want to claim her, weakening his judgment. Feyre delights in her success, knowing that she has planted the seed of discord. The night ends with Tamlin watching Lucien from a distance, while Feyre smiles with satisfaction, aware that her plan to dismantle the Spring Court is advancing faster than she had imagined. Chapter 6. Feyre continues to undermine Ianthe's authority while maintaining her role as a loyal consort. During breakfast, the Hybern princes grow impatient to inspect the wall, and Tamlin remains indifferent after the incident with Lucien. Ianthe interrupts the meal to warn that the land around her temple is dying, suggesting a possible threat from the Naga. Aware of her manipulative intentions, Feyre discredits Ianthe's concern with sarcastic remarks. Tamlin, caught between Ianthe's influence and his pride, agrees to discuss it openly in front of Hybern. When Ianthe mentions Rhysand's family wings as a possible tribute to appease them, Feyre suppresses her fury, pretending indifference. Tamlin confesses that he burned them long ago, showing a glimpse of guilt. Feyre continues to weave her plan to bring down the Spring Court from within, using Ianthe's every move to solidify her position and prepare her final strike. Chapter 7. Feyre accompanies Lucien and the Hybern twins to the wall, where they encounter 3 young humans, children of the blessed, who seek to cross over and live among the Fae. Jurian and the twins evaluate them with cruelty, and Feyre senses the danger they face. Seeing the lecherous looks from Dagden and Brannock, she quickly intervenes. Using her power, she manipulates their minds, implanting horrific memories to make them believe the Fae are monstrous creatures. Terrified, the youths retreat and flee back to their home. Feyre feels relief at having saved them, but she also senses the twins' disgust and frustration. Jurian, however, recognizes her actions and quietly thanks her. Feyre, exhausted from using her power through the wall, feels a persistent headache. As the princes resume their inspection, Feyre realizes her time to act is running out. Chapter 8. Feyre and Lucien are horrified to discover the mutilated bodies of the children of the blessed, brutally murdered by the Hybern twins after crossing the wall. Feyre is consumed by fury, and along with Lucien, they devise a silent reprisal. Stealthily, they lure the Bog, a lethal creature, to the prince's camp. When Dagden and Brannock are attacked by the Bog, they scream in terror as they try to defend themselves. Although they manage to escape, their confidence is deeply shaken. Tamlin, enraged by the incident, confronts Feyre and Lucien in his study, where tensions escalate quickly. Feyre, far from being intimidated, accuses Tamlin of selling his people to Hybern, and her defiance triggers the High Lord's wrath. In a fit of rage, Tamlin loses control and hurls a table at Feyre, injuring her. Lucien takes her away, and the guards witness the scene, planting further doubt about Tamlin's ability to protect them. Chapter 9. After the brutal beating of the sentry, Feyre continues to weaken the Spring Court's trust in Tamlin. Ianthe, believing she has gained influence, plans a trip to the wall with Tamlin to strengthen her position. During the journey, Feyre subtly manipulates the guards, sowing discord and discontent toward Ianthe. When they arrive at the wall, Ianthe tries to get close to Lucien, but Feyre intervenes, uncovering her true intentions. Catching her attempting to subjugate Lucien against his will, Feyre uses her Damati power to control her and forces Ianthe to crush her own hand as punishment. She then implants the order in her mind to remember that pain every time she tries to force someone. As Lucien watches in silence, Feyre promises him that Ianthe will pay for all her crimes. The High Priestess's fall begins, and Feyre continues to weave her vengeance, knowing that the moment of her escape is near. Chapter 10. Feyre discovers that the Hybern twins have been weakening her power with an imperceptible poison. Although she manages to kill Dagden and Brannock after a fierce fight, she realizes she must escape before Tamlin returns. With her powers nearly exhausted, Feyre plans to return to the Night Court, but Lucien, determined to reclaim Ellen, insists on accompanying her. Despite her doubts, Feyre accepts his company. They flee to the Autumn Court, crossing one of the magical gates that connect Prythian. Lucien, aware of the danger awaiting them in his homeland, leads the way, while Feyre endures the pain of her weakened body. Both venture into the lands of Lucien's family, where betrayal and danger lurk in every shadow. Feyre, with her plan unfolding perfectly, knows that the fall of the Spring Court is assured and that war is inexorably approaching. Chapter 11. Feyre and Lucien emerge from the cave at the border of the Autumn Court, venturing into a cold and hostile forest. Without magic, Feyre feels vulnerable as they head north, avoiding Baron's sentinels. They find refuge in a cave where Lucien used to stay during his youth. During the night, tensions flare, and they argue about Tamlin, Ellen, and Lucien's true reasons for following Feyre. At dawn, they continue their journey north, fearing that Lucien's brothers or father might find them. Danger grows as they traverse the Autumn Court's lands, and Lucien demonstrates his knowledge of the terrain while Feyre grapples with the weight of uncertainty and Rhys's absence. As they advance, the tension between them intensifies, reflecting both their desperation to survive and the unspoken secrets surrounding them. Chapter 12. Feyre and Lucien are captured by Eris and his brothers while trying to cross the Autumn Court's lands. Eris, cruel and ruthless, hints that they will take Lucien to his father, Baron, and suggests that Feyre has betrayed Tamlin. The tension escalates when Eris insults Lucien, reminding him of his failure to protect Jasminda. Taking advantage of Eris's distraction, Feyre attacks and creates a wall of fire to escape. Lucien helps her, and together they flee toward the mountains. Danger follows them as the cold and exhaustion threaten to consume them. Lucien, increasingly protective, warns Feyre of the risk of being discovered by his family. Without provisions or a safe refuge, the need to keep moving becomes a struggle for survival as they approach the Winter Court's border. Chapter 13. Eris and his brothers catch up with Feyre and Lucien on the ice of the Winter Court. As Eris melts the ice with fire, forcing them to flee, Feyre uses Calias's power to freeze it again and buy time. But Eris appears in front of them, and one of his brothers fires an arrow that pierces Feyre's arm. Lucien tries to protect her, but the situation is dire. Just as Eris is about to drag her back, Cashin and Azriel arrive, rescuing them in time. Cashin confronts Eris while Azriel fights the other brothers. Feyre frees herself by using her magic to break the fire bindings holding her. Cashin gravely wounds Eris, but Feyre orders him to stop, aware of the political implications. She reveals her title as High Lady of the Night Court, leaving Eris stunned. Cashin, Azriel, and Lucien take her back to Valaris, safe at last. Chapter 14. Feyre returns to Valaris, where she is welcomed by Amren and the rest of her family. Lucien, amazed by the beauty and peace of Valaris, observes with disbelief the difference between this city and the other courts. Rhys appears, and the reunion between him and Feyre is filled with emotion and relief. After weeks of anguish and separation, they share an intimate moment where Feyre reaffirms her mating bond with Rhys. Lucien, a silent witness to their union, realizes that Valaris is not just a city but a home filled with love and belonging. Amren watches Lucien with curiosity and distrust, aware that the presence of Baron's son may bring complications. As Feyre and Rhys rekindle their connection, Lucien remains on the sidelines, overwhelmed by what he has witnessed and the revelations about the true nature of the Night Court. Chapter 15. Feyre visits her sisters at the House of Wind, where she discovers that Nesta has adopted a cold and distant attitude, while Ellen is lost in a void of pain. Nesta, though proud and sharp-tongued, shows signs of inner struggle, especially when Cassian is near. The unspoken connection between them is palpable, but Nesta refuses to acknowledge it. Ellen, on the other hand, is a shadow of herself, trapped in a state of lethargy and sorrow since her transformation. Lucien, seeing Ellen in that state, is devastated. Feyre feels the weight of guilt for what happened to her sisters, while Rhys tries to offer comfort. Lucien, filled with pain over Ellen's indifference toward him, begins to grasp the magnitude of the situation. The tension among everyone is palpable, making it clear that the wounds of the past have yet to heal. Chapter 16. Rhys took Lucien to a room in the House of Wind to rest after his exhausting journey. Although Lucien seemed uncomfortable, Rhys insisted that it was his duty to offer him shelter and clothing. Feyre warned Lucien to stay away from Ellen and Nesta until they decided what to do with them. Lucien asked if he was a prisoner, but Feyre assured him he wasn't, though she set clear rules. Later, Rhys and Feyre flew to Velaris to meet with Amren, Mor, and Azriel. During the meeting, they discussed possible alliances and threats from Hybern, including the possibility of foreign territories joining the war. Cassian expressed his frustration over Nesta's situation and his desire for revenge against the king of Hybern. They also debated the whereabouts of Miriam and Draken, who had mysteriously disappeared, and analyzed the political situation on the continent. Rhys revealed that he had manipulated information to keep Hybern's potential allies occupied with each other. Finally, they decided to convene a meeting with all the High Lords to define alliances. Chapter 17. Cassian took Feyre back to the House of Wind after an intense meeting. While flying over Velaris, Cassian remarked that Nesta needed to leave the house before she destroyed herself. Feyre recalled Nesta's transformation during her conversion, sensing that something dark and powerful had awakened within her. Upon arriving, Ellen refused to come out, but Nesta surprised everyone by appearing, exuding elegance. During dinner, Lucien remained distant, although he accepted Feyre's offer to explore the city. Cassian and Nesta exchanged tense glances while Mor tried to keep the peace. The conversation shifted toward the tensions between Cassian and Nesta and the imminent meeting with the High Lords. Lucien warned that if Eris or Baron discovered Feyre's powers, they would use that information to manipulate them. Rhys decided that invitations for the meeting would be sent out the next day, and Feyre sensed that political tension was increasing as the war approached. Chapter 18. During dinner, Rhys informed the group that they needed to meet with Keir in the Court of Nightmares to request the aid of his legion of Darkbringers. Mor, visibly affected, expressed her disgust at the idea, recalling her father's cruelty. Rhys explained that Keir had the legal right to refuse, which meant they had to convince him. Cassian and Azriel voiced their disagreement, but Rhys insisted it was necessary. Mor agreed to accompany them, though she made it clear she did not trust Keir. During the conversation, Feyre asked Cassian to train her to learn to fly and fight like the Illyrians. Azriel offered his help, noting that teaching someone older to fly was different and more complicated. Feyre also asked Nesta to join the training to see if her powers could help repair the wall, but Nesta only agreed on the condition that Feyre promised to kill the King of Hybern and the Mortal Queens. The tension between Feyre and Nesta grew, making it clear that their relationship was still filled with unhealed wounds. Chapter 19. Feyre began her training with Cassian the next day, and although she tried to focus, her body still remembered the pleasures shared with Rhys that morning. Cassian, however, was upset and expressed his anger at not knowing earlier that Feyre was High Lady, insisting that it would have changed his actions in Hybern. During the training, Cassian confessed that Feyre's absence and his worry for her had left Rhys in anguish. Feyre understood the burden Rhys carried and promised not to let him take on all the risk alone. The tension heightened when Nesta appeared to meet with Amren, but Cassian did not miss the opportunity to provoke her. Feyre, desperate to avoid a confrontation, asked Rhys for help, who sent Azriel to take her away from training and teach her to fly. Azriel, with patience and precision, began guiding her to learn to extend and move her Illyrian wings, though Feyre soon discovered that the process would be painful and exhausting. Chapter 20. After the exhausting training, Rhys took Feyre to the hidden library beneath the House of Wind to investigate ways to repair the wall. The library was immense, with levels descending deep into the mountain. There, they met Clotho, a mute priestess who had been brutally attacked in the past. Her hands destroyed and her tongue cut out to prevent her from speaking. Rhys explained that Mor had found her and brought her to Valaris, where she now cared for the library. As Feyre took in the vast space filled with knowledge, Rhys warned her about an unknown terror that lurked in the depths of the library's pit, something that had even terrified Cashin. Feyre felt a mixture of unease and respect for the place. Clotho guided them to a table filled with ancient books, where they would begin their search to find a way to stop Hybern before it was too late. Chapter 21. Sore after her encounter with Rhys, Feyre seeks out Nesta and Amren to assess the progress of their training. She finds them immersed in a tense lesson, where Amren teaches Nesta how to protect herself from intrusive minds and powers, a vital skill for their upcoming visit to the Court of Nightmares. During dinner, Mor is restless about the imminent meeting with Keir, her father, while Rhys remains calm and cautious. Nightmares torment Feyre that night, taking her back to Under the Mountain, where she relives the horrors suffered by her and her sisters. Rhys pulls her out of the nightmare, calming her with tenderness. The next morning, after sharing her fears, Feyre, Cashin, and Rhys set off for the prison. Rhys's warning about the dangers and ancient protections surrounding the place echoes in her mind as Cashin, ever vigilant, accompanies her to face the Bone Carver. Chapter 22. Feyre and Cashin ascend the mist-covered, mossy mountain slope where the prison is hidden. Cashin, concerned, warns Feyre about the dangers of the Carver, an ancient being with dark powers who could become a dangerous weapon if they fail to control him. As they walk, Cashin explains the history of the ancient gods who ruled before the High Fae, suggesting that the Carver might be one of them. The cold and tension envelop them as Feyre feels the weight of the prison's still air, as if breathing from the mouth of death. Finally, they reach the Carver's cell. Feyre is stunned when the creature takes the form of a young boy bearing the combined features of her and Rhys, reflecting the possibility of their future child. Cashin remains alert, and Feyre offers the Carver the adder's bone as tribute, hoping for his cooperation. Chapter 23. The Carver, intrigued by the adder's bone, reveals unsettling details about his siblings. Striga, the Weaver, and Kashii, both gods of death whose influence still lingers. Cashin and Feyre, aware of the danger, attempt to convince the Carver to join their cause, but he refuses the offer. He prefers to remain hidden in the prison, fearful of attracting his siblings' attention. However, before they leave, the Carver mentions the Ouroboros, an ancient mirror possessed by Keir, leader of the Court of Nightmares. He offers his help in exchange for the mirror, an object capable of reflecting deep and terrible truths. Cashin and Feyre leave the prison, aware that the price for the Carver's power may be more dangerous than they had anticipated. Feyre senses that the decision to free the Carver could change the course of the war for better or worse. Chapter 24. Upon returning to Valaris, Feyre grows concerned for Ellen, who has finally emerged from her room but remains distant and disturbed. Lucien finds her and, in an attempt to get closer, speaks to her gently, but Ellen remains lost in her own world, haunted by visions of a firebird and the sea. Feyre, distressed, invades Lucien's mind to ensure he poses no threat, discovering his pain, longing, and genuine concern for Ellen. At the same time, Nesta displays a growing dark power, an essence that Cashin fears may stem from death itself. Concerned for her sister's well-being, Feyre decides to move them to the townhouse to distance them from the cold solitude of the House of Wind. Azriel, with his quiet devotion, approaches Ellen, sparking a subtle connection that Lucien perceives with restrained jealousy. Ellen remains distant, but a subtle change begins to manifest. Chapter 25. Feyre, Rhys, Mor, and Azriel arrive at the Court of Nightmares, where Feyre takes her place beside Rhys on the throne. Her presence as High Lady is a statement of power that provokes murmurs and tension within the court. Keir, the leader of the Court of Nightmares, shows his disdain toward them, hinting at his sympathy for Hybern and its cause. Rhys, with cold composure, reminds him of his place and forces him to negotiate. Keir demands a price to mobilize his army, the opportunity to access the outside world and perhaps something even more dangerous. In the midst of the negotiation, Aerys, the heir to the Autumn Court, enters the scene, leaving everyone on edge. Aerys's appearance promises to further complicate the already delicate negotiations, while Mor trembles at the sight of the male who betrayed her in the past. Chapter 26. Rhys shocks everyone by bringing Aerys, the heir of Autumn, to the meeting with Keir to negotiate an alliance. Mor feels betrayed and pained upon seeing Aerys, who was responsible for her suffering. Keir agrees to help but demands access to Velaris for himself and his court, provoking Mor's anger. Rhys agrees with strict conditions, but Mor's pain is evident. Keir also mentions the Ouroboros, a dangerous object that no one has managed to possess without going mad. In the end, Aerys makes it clear that he holds secrets that could unravel the potential alliance if his father, Baron, discovers them. Azriel and Cashin contain their rage as Aerys requests support to take over the Autumn Court's throne. Mor suffers as she sees her homeland in danger, and Rhys feels the weight of his decisions. Chapter 27. Mor, devastated by Rhys's decision to allow Keir limited access to Velaris, breaks down in tears upon returning home. Rhys tries to explain that Aerys threatened to reveal vital information about Feyre, but the damage is already done. Cashin and Azriel also show their disapproval of the alliance with Aerys. Amren intervenes, reminding them that they are at war and must remain united. Rhys reveals the precautions taken to limit Keir's power in Velaris, but Mor feels her home is threatened. Feyre tries to comfort Rhys, who is devastated by the consequences of his decision. Amren reveals part of her past and warns that releasing the Bone Carver will require binding him to a Fey body, a price that may be too high. The tension within the circle threatens to fracture their bonds at the most critical moment. Chapter 28. Determined to release tension after the painful events, Feyre trains intensively with Cashin and Azriel. Cashin subjects her to grueling physical exercises while Azriel teaches her to control her wings, though her attempts end in several painful crashes. Azriel shares the story of Nefel, a seraphim whose deformed wing did not stop her from saving Miriam, inspiring the Nefel philosophy, which teaches that the greatest weakness can become strength. The story moves Feyre, who finds hope in her own limitations. Despite her exhaustion, she continues training, determined to be useful in the war. Rhys cares for her after her strenuous day, soothing her pain with massages and showing his love and devotion. Feyre reflects on the risk of the Ouroboros, fearing that it may be too dangerous to confront. Chapter 29. Lucian tries to establish a connection with Ellen through the mating bond, but she remains distant and lost in her own world. Mor and Feyre discreetly observe as he tries to get closer to his mate. Ellen finally drinks tea, showing a small sign of progress, but her prophetic visions torment her. She predicts the arrival of twin ravens, a bad omen. Maja, the healer, examines Ellen and concludes that there is nothing wrong with her, only that she was changed by the cauldron and her mind is sealed to those who try to reach it. Nesta remains restless, demanding more help for her sister. Lucian offers to keep trying to connect with Ellen, hoping that the mating bond may reveal something deeper. Tension grows as answers remain elusive. Chapter 30. Feyre takes Nesta to the library to research the wall. Nesta shows an uncanny intuition for seeking answers, suggesting that her connection to the cauldron grants her innate knowledge. As they search, darkness grows, and two males from Hybern, known as the King's Ravens, emerge from the shadows. They have manipulated the minds of the priestesses and infiltrated Velaris. Their goal is to take Nesta, who stole too much power from the cauldron, preventing it from breaking the wall. Feyre tries to use her magic to winnow, but the blood-bane dust suppresses her power. Nesta, terrified, realizes she is in mortal danger. Feyre struggles to contact Rhys, but something blocks the connection. The threat of Hybern is closer and more dangerous than they had imagined. Chapter 31. Feyre and Nesta face mortal danger when Hybern's ravens corner them in the library. With few options, Feyre decides to descend into the darkness of the pit to escape. As they descend, the ravens pursue them, reminding them of the cauldron's consequences and the young queen's curse. Feyre desperately calls for help from the ancient presence that dwells in the darkness, offering companionship in return. This presence accepts and unleashes its fury on the ravens, brutally destroying them. Cashin and Rhys arrive just in time to pull Feyre and Nesta out of the pit, while Rhys unleashes his dark rage in battle. Once out, Feyre and Nesta are left shaken by the experience but safe. The library is no longer a safe place, and the danger of Hybern has penetrated deeply into their home, leaving everyone with a sense of vulnerability and uncertainty. Chapter 32. Feyre, Nesta, and Cashin recover from the encounter in the library. Cashin offers them brandy to calm their nerves, but the tension lingers. Rhys arrives covered in blood after eliminating the ravens and notices a black tattoo on Feyre's arm, a sign of her agreement with the presence in the pit. Feyre explains that she offered companionship to the creature in exchange for help but did not specify when or to whom. Rhys, furious, struggles to control his anger over his failure to protect them. The threat of Hybern becomes increasingly clear, and it is revealed that the cauldron is seeking what Nesta took from it. Although Nesta does not know exactly what she took, her presence is a danger. Feyre and Rhys reflect on the situation, realizing that Hybern is desperate to regain what was lost. Valaris's defenses must be strengthened, and war seems closer than ever. Chapter 33. Ellen surprises everyone by revealing that she is a seer, a gift granted by the cauldron. Her ability is confirmed when she accurately describes the curse that befell the youngest queen and the existence of a sixth queen, Vassa, who is imprisoned by a sorcerer lord. Vassa, cursed to be a firebird by day and human by night, is trapped along with other young women in a hidden lake on the continent. Azriel understands the importance of this revelation, and Lucien, determined to help, offers to search for Vassa to find human allies. Although the journey is dangerous, Lucien insists that this is his opportunity to contribute and prove his worth. Ellen's information could change the course of the war if they manage to free Vassa. Rhys, aware of the risks, allows Lucien to undertake this dangerous mission, hoping to secure a powerful ally for the imminent battle. Chapter 34. Lucien departs for the continent to search for Vassa, while Ellen watches him leave from the top of the stairs without saying a word. Rhys takes Lucien to the edge of the human lands to begin his quest. Meanwhile, Amren tracks Hybern's spies throughout Valaris, and the city offers blood as an offering for its protection. The priestesses of the library, traumatized after the attack, receive comfort from Rhys and Mor. Although the relationship between Rhys and Mor has softened, the threat of Hybern is imminent. Nesta continues practicing to control her power while Feyre and Rhys prepare for the inevitable. The sense of danger is palpable, and everyone knows that war is at the doorstep. Lucien, now on his journey, represents a hope of securing a valuable ally, but time is running out, and Hybern continues advancing with its plan of destruction. Chapter 35. Hybern launches a surprise attack on the Summer Court, laying siege to Adriata. Rhys, Cashin, and Azriel respond immediately, transporting the Illyrian legions to defend the city. Cashin leads the troops while Azriel gathers information on the enemy. Feyre and Mor prepare to join the battle, leaving Nesta and Ellen under Amren's protection. Upon arriving in Adriata, Feyre and Mor witness the chaos. The sea is stained with blood, Hybern's forces outnumber Tarquin's, and the Illyrian legions fight fiercely to contain the attack. Rhys's power is drained as the battle rages on. Mor and Feyre prepare to enter the palace, aware of the danger lurking in every corner. The war has begun, and the Night Court is ready to fight to the end to protect Prythian. Chapter 36. Feyre and Mor fight off a group of Hybern soldiers trying to reach terrified servants hiding behind a barricaded door. Feyre uses fire and water to annihilate them, while Mor mercilessly beheads their enemies. They advance through the palace levels, killing and leaving 2 wounded soldiers for the survivors to deal with. They then assist the weakened and nearly defeated soldiers of the Summer Court. Feyre cloaks the corridor in darkness, and together with Mor, they eliminate the remaining Hybern soldiers, sowing terror. They clear the palace down to the lower levels and emerge into the streets of Adriata, where they continue slaughtering Hybern's forces. Sweat and blood cover their skin as the battle stretches to the bay, where the Illyrian forces attack from the skies and Tarquin's navy from the sea. Finally, Feyre senses something is wrong with Rhys and seeks his mind, finding his shield impenetrable until she manages to slip through and finds herself trapped in the midst of the battle with him. Chapter 37. Feyre sees through Rhysand's eyes as he confronts the king of Hybern on the deck of the warship. Rhys, exhausted and with his magic dampened by a spell, faces the king, who appears immaculate and untouched by battle. The king taunts Rhys by mentioning Amarantha and threatens to take Feyre if Rhys dies. Rhys assesses his options, aware that he needs time to locate and break the spell that is muting his power. Feyre, desperate, begs him to finish the king, but Rhys hesitates, fearing that a swift death could backfire. When he finally strikes, he impales the king, only to discover it is an illusion. The Real King was never there. Rhys destroys Hybern soldiers aboard the ship, but knows this was merely a prelude to something worse. The magic blocking his power dissipates, and Rhys ends the battle, fully aware that the king still has many moves left to play. Chapter 38. Feyre returns to her body after leaving Rhys's mind and vomits from the shock. Mor takes her to an alley to calm her down. Feyre tells her what she saw. The king was never really there. It was an illusion. After regaining her composure, Feyre and Mor return to the palace, where frantic activity surrounds the treatment of the wounded from the Summer Court and the Illyrians. Varian guides them to Tarquin, who greets them coldly. Tarquin, still wounded, accuses them of opening the gates to Hybern by destroying the Spring Court. Although Mor tries to mediate, Tarquin directs his words solely at Feyre. Rhys appears and confirms that Feyre is his mate, but Tarquin remains resentful. Rhys offers his help, but Tarquin orders them to leave. Before departing, Rhys reminds Tarquin that they will need the Summer Court to stop what is coming. Tarquin, hurt and distrustful, merely asks them to go. Chapter 39. The Illyrian camp settles on the hills, filled with the wounded. Cashin, exhausted, tends to the soldiers and oversees their recovery. Feyre, unable to understand how Rhys maintains his composure after the massacre, devotes herself to bringing water and helping the healers until exhaustion overtakes her. Rhys takes care of her while she sleeps, and when she wakes, they share a moment of calm where Feyre expresses her love and her desire to stop hiding who they are. She decides that at the next meeting with the High Lords, they will reveal their true nature to gain trust. Rhys agrees with the idea, though he warns that they will need to be careful about how they reveal their power. Together, they decide that the time has come to show the Court of Dreams to the world and confront Hybern without masks or deception, trusting in the strength of their family and allies. Chapter 40. Feyre and Rhys visit the prison to negotiate once again with the Bone Carver. Feyre offers him anything except the Ouroboros, but the Carver desires nothing else. Feyre feels the weight of that decision and postpones confronting the mirror. Upon returning to the townhouse, they discover Ellen baking bread with Nuala and Ceridwen, a small glimpse of normalcy that gives them hope. Later, Nesta anxiously waits for news of Cashin, showing concern for the first time. Although she tries to hide it, her worry is evident. Amren and Nesta continue studying the book to find a way to repair the wall. Meanwhile, Feyre asks Rhys to take her to the prison to seek answers from the Carver, aware that the upcoming battle will demand powerful allies and the full truth of what they are capable of. Chapter 41. Feyre and her friends prepare for the meeting with the High Lords. Rhys, Mor, and Azriel discuss the possible dangers of Theson's palace, while Amren works tirelessly with the book, seeking a way to repair the wall. Nesta trains with Amren, although she still lacks control over her power. The meeting will take place in the Dawn Court, a neutral territory, which keeps everyone on edge. Feyre, dressed in a dazzling starfall gown and a crown she chose from Rhys's family treasures, symbolizes the union of night and stars. Cashin jokes, but the atmosphere tenses as they remember the emotional and physical wounds they still carry. Nesta surprises the group by announcing that she will attend the meeting, determined not to be remembered as a coward. The tension grows as the group sets off for the meeting that could decide Prythian's fate. Chapter 42. Nesta, determined not to be seen as a coward, insists on accompanying the group to the meeting, assuming the role of emissary for the human world. Rhys accepts her in her new task, recognizing her courage, while Cashin tries to hide his evident relief and confusion at having Nesta close. Mor and Azriel exchange bets on how long it will take before a fight erupts at the meeting. The group travels to the Dawn Court, where the beauty of the floating palace and the golden clouds impress Nesta, evoking in Feyre the same admiration she felt when she first saw Valaris. Rhys, ever the provocateur, whispers mischievous thoughts to Feyre, keeping the tension light before the crucial meeting. As a precaution, Azriel arrives first to ensure everything is in order before they enter. Chapter 43. Rhys and Feyre arrive at the Dawn Court, where they meet the San, Helaon, and Callias. The tension is palpable as they exchange formal greetings, though the atmosphere softens when Mor reunites with Vivian, Callias' wife, in an emotional embrace. Helaon, the brilliant and powerful High Lord of the Day Court, observes with cold intelligence, analyzing every movement. Callias and Vivian display a warm relationship, forged after years of separation during Amarantha's reign. Helion's arrival increases the tension as his sharp gaze falls on Nesta, questioning her presence. Nesta, with firmness, declares her Fey origin after being thrown into the cauldron. The meeting begins in a charged atmosphere of suspicion, while everyone awaits the arrival of Tarquin, Beren, and possibly Tamlin. Chapter 44. Tamlin bursts into the meeting, teleporting directly into the chamber. His presence freezes everyone, and his hatred toward Feyre is palpable. Although he tries to remain calm, his hostility and resentment consume him. He accuses Feyre of betraying his court and leaving it defenseless against Hybern, fueling the distrust of the High Lords. Tamlin publicly humiliates Feyre, but Azriel intervenes to defend her. Rhys, in a calculated move, strips Tamlin of his ability to speak, imposing his power and reminding everyone of the magnitude of his strength. However, Tamlin offers information about Hybern's movements, attempting to justify his presence and apparent loyalty to Prythian. The tension intensifies as Tamlin throws accusations, but Rhys remains composed, willing to prioritize Prythian's welfare over his pride. Chapter 45. The meeting spirals out of control when Tamlin provokes Feyre and her allies with hurtful insults, questioning Rhys's loyalty and tarnishing Feyre's reputation. Eris, with his venomous tongue, insults Mor, triggering Azriel's fury. The Shadowzinger breaks through Eris's defenses and subdues him, leaving everyone stunned. Feyre manages to calm Azriel, reminding Eris of his place. Helaon, ever astute, reviews the documents provided by Tamlin on Hybern's movements, while Nguyen, a talented craftsman, presents an antidote to the bloodbane poison. Beren, ever skeptical, questions the antidote's effectiveness, but Rhys and the Sand trust Nguyen's skill. The tension continues to mount as Tamlin persists with his verbal attacks, until Feyre, unable to endure any more insults, unleashes a wave of fire directed at Beren, marking the beginning of a new phase in the meeting. Chapter 46. Feyre attacked Beren with unleashed fury, driven by memories of Rhys's suffering under Amarantha. Her power nearly destroyed Beren's defenses, but Rhys stopped her, reminding her that killing Beren would leave Eris as High Lord. Rhys calmed her with words of love, allowing Feyre to release the magic. Beren fell humiliated when Rhys destroyed his chair, warning him never to insult his mate again. When Beren attempted to leave the meeting, Nesta intervened with fierce passion, urging the High Lords to fight against Hybern to protect innocents, both Fey and humans. Her speech impacted even Eris and his mother. Although Beren did not confirm his support, other High Lords, including Callias and Tarquin, vowed to fight alongside them. In the end, 6 out of 7 High Lords joined, strengthening the alliance against Hybern. Chapter 47. The meeting of the High Lords ended with alliances still uncertain. While everyone stayed to discuss further details, Rhys and his court were taken to luxurious chambers. Azriel remained distant, still affected by his attack on Eris. Helion visited Rhys and Feyre, his jovial attitude and flirtations toward Mor, Cashin, and Azriel easing the tension. During the conversation, Helion revealed unsettling details about the Lady of Autumn and her sisters, murdered by Hybern in the last war. Feyre deduced that Helion was Lucien's true father, explaining Baron's disdain for him. Rhys confirmed her suspicions but agreed to keep it secret. As Helion discussed the army's movements, Feyre and Rhys began planning how to protect Valaris and prepare for war. Cashin and Azriel remained vigilant, aware of the growing tension between Mor and Azriel. Chapter 48. Mor spent the night with Helion, though her expression the next morning was empty and distant. During breakfast, Cashin joked, but Mor remained withdrawn. Rhys and Feyre, after a night of intimacy and promises of mutual protection, prepared to continue the negotiations. During the meeting, Nesta felt a strange pain, as if something was tearing apart inside her. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the mountain shook. Rhys discovered that the king of Hybern had used the cauldron to destroy the wall. The barrier separating the human and Fey worlds had fallen, leaving everyone vulnerable. The news shocked everyone, especially Nesta, who felt the rupture deeply due to her connection to the cauldron. Rhys acknowledged that they had acted too late, and now war was imminent, with Hybern ready to ravage both worlds. Chapter 49. After the fall of the wall, everyone quickly returned to Valaris to plan their next strategy. The San and the other High Lords promised to send their armies, except for Baron, whose support remained uncertain. Ellen proposed taking the humans to Grayson's estate for protection, as his property had thick stone walls, escape tunnels, and an arsenal of ash weapons. However, the estate was guarded by hounds trained to hunt Fey. Ellen, determined and stronger than ever, offered to convince Grayson to open his gates, asking Rhys to conceal her Fey nature. Cashin began mobilizing the Illyrian legions while Feyre and her court prepared to accompany Ellen, aware that the situation could turn deadly if Grayson reacted poorly. The tension increased as the moment to confront the enemy drew closer. Chapter 50. Feyre visited the library with Amren to fulfill her deal with Bryaxis, the creature that dwelled in the depths. She offered to free Bryaxis in exchange for fighting with them against Hybern. The creature accepted the deal on the condition that it be given a window to see the sun, moon, and stars. Amren promised to break the wards when the time came. With this powerful new ally, Feyre returned to Valaris, keeping the deal a secret. As they gathered to leave for the Illyrian camp, Feyre hid her new tattoo marking the bargain. Rhys and Feyre shared an intimate moment before leaving Valaris, knowing that war was upon them. As they transported to the battlefield, Feyre promised that they would see their home and beloved city again, clinging to the hope that the promise would come true. Chapter 51. Feyre, Rhys, Mor, Azriel, and Nesta arrive at the Illyrian camp, where Lord Devlon and other warriors greet them with hostility. The disdain toward females remains, and Nesta's presence instills fear and discomfort, as the Illyrians perceive her as a dark and uncontrollable force. Cashin protects Nesta from the warriors' mistrust, but she does nothing to ease their suspicions. Feyre decides to take her sisters and Mor to the tent to avoid further tension. Ellen, lost and melancholic, watches the camp with fear, while Nesta, strong and determined, becomes a steady presence at her side. Mor prepares a spell to hide Ellen's Fey appearance before leaving for Grayson's estate. The tension of the imminent journey and the Illyrians' rejection weighs heavily on the group as they prepare for the next stage of their mission. Chapter 52. The group arrives at Grayson's estate, a fortress heavily fortified and prepared to withstand any threat. Ellen, nervous, asks to speak with her fiancé to seek refuge for the humans. The guards make them wait in the guardhouse, where Grayson and his father, Lord Nolan, finally appear. Grayson, surprised by Ellen's transformation, is distant and distrustful. Nesta explains the fall of the wall and the imminent threat, but Nolan shows disdain toward the Fae. Rhys and Feyre attempt to reason with them to open their doors to the humans, but Nolan's hostile attitude puts everything at risk. Grayson, though affected by Ellen's presence, still feels revulsion toward what she has become, sowing doubts about his true intentions. The tension escalates when an unexpected ally enters the scene. Jurian. Chapter 53. Jurian reveals that he has been secretly working to undermine Hybern's plans. He explains that he was resurrected under the assumption that his mind was broken, but in reality, he has been playing a dangerous game from within. He confesses that his goal was never to help Hybern but to warn the humans and sow discord among the continent's queens. Jurian reveals that Tamlin has returned to the Spring Court to inform Hybern about the High Lord's meeting. He also provides crucial information for the upcoming battle, suggesting they strike Hybern's left flank, where young and inexperienced nobles will be easily defeated. His truth surprises and unsettles everyone, especially Mor, who once fought alongside him. Though doubts remain, Rhysand looks into his mind and confirms his sincerity. Jurian promises to continue helping them from within. Chapter 54. Grayson reacts with disdain upon discovering Ellen's transformation and her bond with Lucien. Although Ellen insists that the mating bond means nothing to her, Grayson cannot accept her new nature and breaks their engagement. Despite Ellen's sadness, she remains firm. Lord Nolan agrees to open his doors to protect the humans but makes it clear that Ellen will not be welcome. The situation culminates when Nesta, furious at the disdain toward her sister, slaps Grayson before leaving. Jurian, meanwhile, offers more information about Hybern's movements and promises to return to the enemy camp to continue his espionage. The revelation of the truth and Grayson's rejection leave Ellen heartbroken, while Nesta and Feyre try to console her before returning to the camp to prepare for the battle ahead. Chapter 55. The Illyrian army camps near the Winter Court's border, preparing for battle. Cashin follows Jurian's recommendations on how to strike Hybern. While the soldiers rest before the fight, Feyre and Mor reflect on betrayals and unexpected alliances, pondering how circumstances can turn allies into enemies. Ellen remains heartbroken after her breakup with Grayson, and Nesta hides her rage. During the night, Feyre cannot sleep and seeks comfort from Rhysand, who is also tormented by the imminent loss of lives. They embrace in silence, sharing their pain and love before dawn. Rhys confesses his gratitude for having her by his side in this dark moment. As dawn approaches, they both gaze at the stars one last time before the war begins, knowing that Prythian's fate hangs by a thread. Chapter 56. The Illyrian forces, led by Cashin and Azriel, ambush Hybern's army, catching them off guard as they march toward the Summer Court's border. Rhys hides his army until the last moment, allowing the Illyrians to descend like a storm from the sky while Kyr's Darkbringers attack from the ground. The battle is fierce, with Cashin leading the left flank and Rhys preserving his power to confront the Cauldron or the King. Cashin, in a masterful display of strength and strategy, kills the enemy commander with a precisely thrown spear, demoralizing Hybern. Tarquin's army, waiting on the opposite shore, traps the enemies in a deadly encirclement. Tarquin executes Hybern's prisoners by magically drowning them. The victory is decisive, but the blood and death leave an indelible mark on everyone, especially Cashin and Rhys, who bear the weight of the massacre. Chapter 57. After the battle, the Illyrian camp relocates to the edge of the battlefield. Cashin returns covered in blood and mud, and though he pretends to be unharmed, Nesta notices his injured wrist beneath his armor. Without words, she cleans and bandages his wound, while Cashin watches her with contained devotion. The tension between them is palpable, but when Cashin thanks her, Nesta only stares at him without offering her usual sharp retort. Later, Mor and Feyre tend to the wounded, while Nesta silently cuts bandages to help. As night falls, Feyre curls up beside Rhys, who cannot sleep, haunted by the death and carnage. The connection between them is deep, and Rhys confesses that thinking of her during the battle gives him the strength to carry on. Feyre, though exhausted, promises to always be by his side, as the weight of the war engulfs them. Chapter 58. Feyre seeks the Surreal to obtain crucial information about Hybern's army. With Ellen's help, she locates the creature in the middle, but upon arriving, she discovers that Ianthe and 2 Hybern guards have followed her, using a tracking spell on the Surreal's cloak. Ianthe fires ash arrows that mortally wound the Suriel, who, aware of its fate, begs Feyre to escape. Despite the danger, Feyre chooses to stay and defend it, but she is overpowered. Fleeing from Ianthe, Feyre leads them to the Weaver's cottage, where she lures her enemies inside and traps them with the monstrous creature. Ianthe and the guards are devoured, while Feyre returns to the dying Suriel. In its final moments, the Suriel asks Feyre to make the world a better place and dies, leaving Feyre with the pain of losing a creature that had always helped her. Chapter 59. Feyre returns to the Suriel, finding it dying after being struck by ash arrows. Despite her desperation, the Suriel knows it cannot be saved. Moved by Feyre's kindness, it reminds her that she has always fought for good and asks her to stay by Rhysand's side to set Prythian's fate right. The Suriel, a dreamer at heart, dies, leaving Feyre devastated. In the midst of her grief, Helion appears and, understanding the importance of the moment, helps Feyre incinerate the Suriel's body with pure sunlight flames. Feyre covers the Suriel with Helion's cloak as a final act of respect, and as the light consumes the creature's body, Feyre vows to honor its memory by fighting to the end. Helion, with compassion, carries Feyre back to the camp, while the Suriel's promise echoes in her heart. Chapter 60. Feyre, determined to protect the Suriel, lures Ianthe and her guards to the Weaver's cottage. Upon entering the cabin, Ianthe and her companions are greeted by the monstrous creature within. Feyre, strategically positioned, locks the door behind them, leaving the Weaver to devour them. Their screams of terror echo through the woods as Feyre rushes back to the Suriel. Finding it dying, Feyre remains by its side, holding its hand until the end. The Suriel's death leaves a deep wound in her heart, but Feyre clings to its final words, to make the world a better place. When Helion arrives to assist her, Feyre allows the Suriel's body to be consumed by purifying flames, and as the ashes are carried away by the wind, Feyre vows to honor its sacrifice by facing the darkness that threatens Prythian. Chapter 61. Feyre returns to the camp with Rhys after the Suriel's death and the encounter with the Weaver. Rhys embraces her, relieved, while Cashin lies gravely wounded under the care of a healer. Feyre notices Cashin's deep wound and feels guilty for leaving without informing anyone. Mor, bloodied and exhausted, confronts Feyre for disappearing, leaving everyone worried. Feyre shares what happened with Rhys, who understands her decision but asks her to leave a note next time. The tension escalates when Mor, furious, accuses Feyre of lying and not trusting her. The argument intensifies, and Feyre delivers a harsh truth about Mor's hidden feelings for Azriel. Hurt, Mor dismisses Feyre from her tent. Feyre leaves, feeling the weight of guilt, as Amren appears with the book to help Nesta track the cauldron. Chapter 62. Amren warns Feyre about the truths Mor has yet to face. Feyre returns to the tent where Rhys and Azriel care for Cashin. Nesta arrives covered in mud after witnessing the battle. Amren brings bones and stones for Nesta to use her connection with the cauldron to track it. Cashin, still wounded, approaches Nesta, who finally accepts his presence. Concentrating, Nesta enters a trance and locates the cauldron, but her mind becomes trapped in its presence. Feyre intervenes mentally to save her. Both feel the cauldron sensing them, nearly capturing them. As she drops the bones and stones, Nesta reveals that Hybern's army is near the edge of the human territory. The revelation terrifies the group, as they realize Hybern has manipulated them to position them where he wanted. Now, the threat of destruction is imminent. Chapter 63. After the day's tension, Amren and Varian give in to their desires, disappearing from the tent in a passionate display of affection. Rhys and the others watch in amazement, and Tarquin jokes about taking shifts to keep an eye on them. Cashin offers Nesta food or rest, but she chooses sleep, exhausted. Feyre and Rhys have a quiet conversation before bed, but their dreams are plagued with disturbing visions. Feyre sees the dead Suriel, the Weaver devouring Ianthe, and the cauldron watching them. She also dreams of Grayson, promising to restore Ellen's humanity. Upon waking, Feyre senses something is wrong. Rhys feels it too. They both rush to find Nesta, who has also sensed the cauldron's call. Amren confirms that its power has reached them, watching and warning that Hybern now knows where they are. Hybern's threat grows, and the camp's safety hangs by a thread. Chapter 64. Nesta is devastated after feeling the cauldron's presence and realizing that Ellen has been taken by Hybern. Guilt consumes her as she understands that the cauldron took her sister as revenge. Cashin tries to console her, but Nesta, broken, insists that no one can enter Hybern's heart to save her. Azriel, determined and fearless, promises to bring Ellen back, even if it costs him his life. Feyre volunteers to accompany him, transforming into Ianthe to infiltrate the camp. With Azriel's help, Feyre adopts the appearance of the priestess, and they plan to rescue Ellen. Rhys, though worried, supports her decision, warning her not to hesitate or falter. With her disguise ready and determination burning in her heart, Feyre heads toward the enemy's dangerous stronghold with Azriel. The mission is clear: enter, rescue Ellen, and escape before being discovered. Chapter 65. Feyre, disguised as Ianthe, and Azriel successfully infiltrate Hybern's camp. They avoid the guards and reach the king's tent, where they find Ellen, chained and gagged. Azriel frees her, but before they can escape, Hybern's hounds discover them. Feyre and Azriel fight their way toward the cliff that separates them from freedom. At the last moment, Tamlin appears and sacrifices himself to face the hounds, allowing them to escape. Wounded by an ash arrow, Feyre barely manages to stay on her feet as her wings propel her toward freedom. Azriel, gravely injured, also manages to stay airborne with Ellen and a young human girl named Briar. After crossing the magical wards, they return to the camp. Nesta, seeing Ellen safe, breaks down in tears and thanks Feyre. Exhausted, Feyre and her sisters huddle together, reliving the bond that united them in difficult times. The relief of having saved Ellen is immense, but the war is far from over. Chapter 66. Callias arrived with his army at noon, waking Feyre and her sisters. As she watched their arrival, Feyre reflected on Tamlin, believing that his betrayal masked an act of espionage to help them. Leaving the tent, she witnessed the splendor of the Winter Court's army, with lesser immortals and magnificent creatures. Among them, Mor walked with Vivian and Briar, the human girl Feyre had rescued. Upon returning to the camp, Mor confessed the truth she had hidden for centuries. She loved Azriel, but not in the way he desired, as she preferred women. She revealed that fear of her family and the pressure of her lineage led her to hide her true nature. Mor admitted that she had taken male lovers to maintain the facade, but her heart had belonged to a human queen named Andromache. Feyre promised to keep her secret and stand by her when she decided to reveal it. Chapter 67. Amren discovered a spell in the book that would allow Feyre, Nesta, Ellen, and herself to block the power of the cauldron and the king of Hybern if they managed to touch it together. The plan was to wait for the chaos of the battle to act, although it would be dangerous due to the cauldron's power. That night, Feyre and Rhys transported humans out of the villages before Hybern's army arrived, taking them to Adriata. Although some did not trust them, Rhys forced them to leave to save their lives. After hours of effort, Rhys was exhausted and collapsed upon returning to his tent. Feyre observed his fatigue and decided to seek extra help for the battle. Despite the cost, she traveled alone to the Court of Nightmares to seek the Ouroboros, a mirror that revealed the deepest truth of those who looked into it. Chapter 68. Feyre climbed the 1,000 steps to the chamber where the Ouroboros was kept, a mirror guarded by the image of a snake devouring itself. When she looked into it, she saw her fears, her weaknesses, and everything she hated about herself, but she did not run. She accepted those parts and discovered that she loved herself, which allowed her to claim the mirror. Upon returning, she visited the bone carver to fulfill her part of the bargain. He revealed that the Ouroboros was a test to see if she was worthy. Satisfied, he agreed to fight for her cause. Bryaxis, the creature of shadows, was also summoned, ready to sow terror in the enemy ranks. Feyre had secured 2 of the deadliest weapons to face Hybern, but she knew the battle was still far from won. Chapter 69. Hybern's army devastated the land from the Spring Court to the coast, including Feyre's village and home. As their army prepared for battle, Cashen maintained order among the Illyrians, and Azriel gave his prized sword, Truth-Teller, to Ellen for protection. Rhysand spoke from the heart, thanking his family for everything they had shared, and reminded them that they were fighting for life and the future. The battle began when Bryaxis, the Bone Carver, and the Weaver launched themselves against Hybern, sowing chaos. Rhysand unleashed his power, eliminating part of the enemy army, and the Illyrians attacked from the sky. Hybern was prepared with arrows laced with bloodbane, which decimated the Illyrian ranks. Just when the situation seemed desperate, Tamlin, Baron, and Jurian arrived with their armies to reinforce Feyre's forces. Chapter 70. The Bone Carver, Bryaxis, and the Weaver tore through Hybern's lines, while Rhysand and Azriel launched devastating attacks. However, Hybern retaliated by unleashing the cauldron's power, destroying entire rows of Illyrians in an instant. Nesta sensed the danger before it happened and called out to Cashen, saving him from the explosion. But the cauldron continued its assault, and when it struck again, it reached the Bone Carver, who vanished with a smile on his face. Hybern's army remained resilient, and Feyre knew the time had come to seek the cauldron. While her family fought to buy time, she, Nesta, Ellen, and Amren prepared to fulfill their part of the plan. The fate of the world hung by a thread as chaos reigned on the battlefield. Chapter 71. Feyre watched the devastation left by the Bone Carver before the Illyrians returned to battle alongside the Peregrines and the human army. Nesta, devastated, felt the cauldron had calmed again. As Cashen worried about the situation, Azriel, despite his wounds, offered to fly in an attempt to stop the threat. The situation looked grim when a fleet appeared from the west, Hybern's reinforcements. Rhys, anguished, begged Feyre to flee if everything went wrong. But just when defeat seemed inevitable, a sound of horns announced the arrival of a new army from the east. Draken, the Seraphim, and Miriam's fleet, accompanied by a multitude of human ships led by Feyre's father, Lucian, and Queen Vassa. Hope was restored as Draken's legion joined the battle to confront Hybern. Chapter 72. Feyre's father appeared at the helm of the ships bearing the names of his daughters, proving that he had been seeking help all along. Rhys introduced Nesta and Feyre to Draken before Vassa, transformed into a firebird, destroyed Hybern's ships. As the forces engaged in a brutal battle, Cashen and Nesta decided to serve as a distraction to lure the king away from the cauldron. Cashen, determined, begged Rhys to let him do it, arguing that he owed him that chance for everything Rhys had sacrificed. Nesta suggested using herself as bait, knowing the king would follow her, sensing the power she had taken from the cauldron. Cashen, willing to protect her, accompanied her while Feyre and Amren prepared to try to control the cauldron. Rhys, heartbroken, allowed his friends to go, knowing the danger they faced was immense. Chapter 73. Feyre and Amren managed to get close to the cauldron, taking advantage of the distraction Striga, the Weaver, provided by fighting Hybern's guards. However, the king appeared and brutally killed Striga before turning toward Nesta, drawn by the power she had stolen from the cauldron. Amren and Feyre continued their mission, but when Feyre placed her hand on the cauldron, she felt its devastating power. Amren had lied all along. Her plan was not to control the cauldron but to release her true form to destroy Hybern. While Feyre struggled against the cauldron's power, Nesta and Cashen were alone, facing the king. Cashen, injured and weakened, tried to protect her as the king cornered them. Amren's sacrifice was meant to be the last hope to stop Hybern, although that sacrifice might cost them all too much. Chapter 74. The king of Hybern used Feyre's father as a shield to prevent Nesta from attacking, forcing her to stop. Before her eyes, the king snapped his neck, causing Nesta and Feyre unbearable pain. Cashen, exhausted and wounded, tried to protect Nesta, willing to give his life. As Cashen attempted to drive the king away, Nesta remained by her father's body, closing his eyes tenderly. Cashen confessed his only regret, not having had more time with Nesta, promising her that he would find her in another life. When the king was about to kill them, Nesta shielded Cassion's body with her own, ready to die alongside him. However, Ellen, silent and determined, emerged from the shadows and stabbed the king with Truth-Teller, protecting her sister. Destiny shifted in that moment, but the battle was far from over. Chapter 75. With the blade still in the king's throat, Ellen stepped back as Nesta approached to finish the task. With silent fury, Nesta twisted the blade inside the king's neck, savoring every moment before finally decapitating him. The king fell dead, and the cauldron, sensing that Ellen had protected the thief of its power, began to retreat. However, the threat remained, and Amren revealed her true plan: to unleash her primordial form to obliterate Hybern's army. Feyre, heartbroken by Amren's betrayal, spoke the spell that released her, knowing that Amren would not return. The explosion of power that erupted from her swept across the battlefield, destroying Hybern completely. In the end, only light and silence remained. Amren's sacrifice had saved them all, but Feyre knew the price had been too high. Chapter 76. Tears streamed down Varian's face as they gazed at the place where Amren had disappeared. Feyre, empty and exhausted, felt a disturbing presence in the fragments of the broken cauldron. Rhys appeared, wounded and drained, and upon seeing the cauldron's state, they realized that the world's balance was in danger. If the cauldron remained broken, the world would collapse. Rhys proposed that Feyre reforge it using her power as a conduit. Together, they channeled their magic to remake the cauldron. Feyre remembered Prythian's history and the creation of the world, channeling that energy to bind the fragments. Rhys poured all his power into her, and together they sealed the cauldron. But when Feyre finished and turned around, she discovered Rhys lying motionless on the ground. The mating bond was gone, and his chest no longer moved. Rhys had died to save the world. Chapter 77. Feyre screamed and cried, unable to accept Rhys's loss. Azriel, Cassion, and more watched silently, unable to console her. The San, the High Lord of Dawn, tried to save him but shook his head, finding no signs of life. Feyre begged the High Lords to bring him back, just as they had done with her. Tarquin, Helion, Callias, and the San gave part of their power to Rhys, but Baron refused until Mor, threateningly, forced him. Even Feyre gave a spark of her life, but one last grain of light was missing. Tamlin appeared, bloodied and wounded, and despite everything, he agreed. "Be happy, Feyre," he said before giving his power. When all had given their energy, Feyre clung to Rhys and spoke of her love, reminding him of all they had shared. Finally, his chest moved again. Rhys had returned to life, and Amren also returned, now as an ordinary Fae. Chapter 78. Feyre, Nesta, and Ellen returned to the clearing to bid farewell to their father. With pain and silent tears, they washed his face and prepared him for his final rest. Nesta remained cold and distant, but her eyes reflected infinite sadness. Ellen placed flowers near his head, while Feyre recited a prayer for the mother to take him into her embrace. With a spell, Feyre turned his body to ashes. As they were about to leave, Lucien appeared, exhausted and covered in blood. Despite his fatigue, he approached to offer his condolences, acknowledging the sacrifice of the man who had given his life to save them. Ellen and Lucien exchanged brief words, but Lucien saw the distance in her eyes. As they returned to the camp, Lucien told them his story of how he found Vassa and helped gather the army that changed the course of the battle. Pain and loss lingered, but the weight of war remained in their hearts. Chapter 79. The ruined Arkharron estate became the place where humans and Fae gathered to begin building peace. Feyre and Rhys welcomed the High Lords, including Baron, Helion, Tarquin, and Tamlin. Lucien and Ellen remained silent, while Tamlin, wounded and distant, ignored his former friend. Draken and Miriam shared their story, demonstrating how Fae and humans could live in harmony. Jurian and Grayson also attended, though Grayson barely acknowledged Ellen. Feyre proposed renegotiating the treaty, knowing that a divided world could not prosper. Vasa appeared with fierce determination to break her curse and warned of the treacherous human queens. Nesta, cold and distant, chose to stay and support Feyre in that task. Together, they entered the hall where Fae and humans, united by the hope of a better future, awaited to discuss Prythian's destiny. Chapter 80. The first meeting to renegotiate the treaty lasted hours. Feyre recounted her full story, from poverty to under the mountain and the love that had saved her. Miriam and Draken shared their story to show that Fae and humans could coexist. Though there were open wounds and deep scars, it was a first step toward peace. Building trust would take time, but hope blossomed. At the end of the day, everyone departed, and Valaris became their refuge once again. Jurian accepted Vasa's offer to join her court, while Lucian, surprisingly relaxed, laughed with the queen. Tamlin left without exchanging words, but Feyre left him a note of gratitude, wishing him happiness. Back in Valaris, the family returned to their home, but they were all different. Ellen dreamed of creating a garden to fill the world with beauty, and Feyre knew that although the road to peace would be long, they had a chance to build a better future. Chapter 81. Rhys watched from the kitchen, listening to the laughter of Feyre, Ellen, and more echoing in the hall where everyone celebrated. The sound of joy and the peace they had won moved him deeply, reminding him that his mate was happy, safe, and surrounded by those she loved. Cashin and Azriel joined him, offering a glass of the oldest liquor from the night court. Cashin joked about Rhys's age, while Azriel quietly acknowledged that all of it was real: peace, happiness, life. Rhys felt a sting in his eyes and toasted with his brothers, knowing that times of reconstruction and difficult negotiations lay ahead. But for now, he wanted to savor these moments. When Moore called them to bring food, Rhys realized that the vision of the future Feyre had shown him, filled with laughter and peace, was closer than he had ever dreamed. Until then, they would enjoy every heartbeat. Chapter 82. Feyre found Rhys and on the terrace, gazing silently at the stars. She nestled into his lap, savoring that moment of peace after the battle. She wore a sheer red nightgown, a gift of gratitude from Valaris's merchants, which brought laughter and desire to Rhys. As he caressed her skin, Rhys confessed that he had heard her when he was on the brink of death and that her voice had made him stay. Feyre made him promise never to lie to her again about something so important. They sealed their promise with a kiss, and new tattoos appeared on their arms, reflecting their eternal bond. Rhys took her flying through the starry sky of Valaris, where lights and music illuminated the city still scarred by war. As they flew together, they felt that the future offered them a gift: infinite nights to share, discover, and build a better world. Together, forever. That was A Court of Wings and Ruin, a tale where hope defies darkness and love rises from the ashes of war. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Prythian's final battle. If you like this summary, subscribe, like, and share it with other fantasy lovers. Tell me in the comments, what did you think about Feyre and Rhysand's fate after the war? And which moment hit you the hardest?